Yeah. Soak it in. Are you basking?
Yeah.
This is great. I love the Curry Society. This is where I launched my cookbook, a Korean cookbook, in 2022. And I think this place is really special and it always brings out the coolest people. Thank you all for coming out. I kind of was wondering while you're on book tour, this is kind of a question for Nam Soon, but you can answer for her if you want. But is she still able to drink her 900 calorie drink here?
엄마 900 calorie drink 여기 마셔도 돼?
글쎄요. 예, 마셔도 될 것 같아요.
She said if she had it, she would, but
Yeah.
we're not drinking it right now.
Okay.
We're just getting plenty of water, like you suggested when I texted you.
I was like, drink a lot of water, take some vitamins. It's like a manual sport book tour. Okay, cool. I think I wanted to start here. It's a question that I got a lot, but I think it's not a Korean book talk until we talk about sonmat. And I really loved your interview with Michelle Norris. She's amazing journalist, but your answer to that was so beautiful. I wanted to ask you what sonmat means to both of you.
Yeah. So my mom taught me what sonmat was when we were developing this cookbook. I obviously knew what it was, but how do you encapsulate that in words? And I finally knew what to write when I made our kimchi recipe. So we developed 2 kimchi recipes. There's multiple kimchi recipes, but the one that we're most commonly familiar with is the napa cabbage one. We have both the mat kimchi and pogi kimchi. Mat kimchi is the one you get at Korean barbecue restaurants, the one you get at grocery stores, very commonly sold in cut pizzas. And then there's pogi kimchi, which is a traditional dish that Koreans made to get us through harsh winter months. It's when you taste it, you instantly feel connected to your roots. Yes. And when my mom finalized the recipe, the thing with America's Test Kitchen, there was a very rigorous process to developing these recipes where my mom developed it, we sent it to America's Test Kitchen, and then they sent it back to me and had me retest it as a non-professional cook so that it could be accessible and valid for all home cooks. So I was doing the recipe and I was mixing it. I followed the recipe exactly as it stated, and then my mom was like, no, that's not how you do it. And then she kind of pushed me aside and she did it. And I watched her very closely this time. And I noticed the way that she lifted her fingers, released it, the way she put pressure on the napa cabbage and then mixed it together. It was like a dance. Yeah. And it was like a type of dance that, like a ballerina dancer, you either have the intuition to dance or you don't. And I realized, oh, I don't have Umma's sonmat, but what she's doing right here as she's making this kimchi in her Asian squat in the middle of our kitchen, her fingers are just instilling this taste and love into the kimchi. And that's what sonmat is. You give 2 people the same recipe, the person who has that natural intuition and love, that's what makes the kimchi amazing. That's what makes the food amazing.
Yeah. I like that you also use the word talent.
Yeah.
So I think that's really true. People think that just because you follow a recipe, your food's going to turn out great, but you need a little bit of charisma and 매력 and talent. I just have to say, this is such a beautiful book. It's such a celebration of not just Korean home cooking, but I was really struck by how it was also a lesson in documenting and in you really get into detail, and it's like your family's recipes are covered. How does it feel have you started cooking from your own book yet? I was just curious.
Yeah, we actually brought our copy. We bring it to every book event. It's stained. There's water stains all over it. There's gochugaru, sesame seeds on it, and every time it gets stained, I'm like, yes, because it's like it's going to mean so much when my mom isn't here around anymore. So yeah, we are cooking out of it. I'm cooking out of it. I'm making food for my friends and family, and it means a lot, especially as a Korean American. The title of your book, because as a Korean American, I'm not fluent in Korean. That's completely my fault, in my opinion, because I have the time, not right now, but I have the time to learn Korean eventually. But in order for me to learn Korean, I have to be intentional with it and purposely find the time to do it. Likewise, with these recipes, you have to find the time to preserve your Umma's recipes, your dad's recipes, your grandparents. And so as Korean Americans, I think it's very important that we preserve these so that we can taste our roots when they're no longer around. Otherwise, it's going to inevitably become diluted. So it was very important, and I cherish every recipe in this book.
Yeah. It made me think about the use of the word authenticity. I feel like that was I like almost wasn't gonna go here because it's sort of the topic that you have to talk about if you're doing a Korean American cookbook, because of the fact that you're writing about Korean food for an English speaking audience. I wanted to ask you, what was the greatest challenge of, translation? Like, was there, whether it's culinary or cultural, was there anything that was the most arduous for yourself as the writer?
I think question가 뭐가 제일 어려웠어 이거 찾게 만드는 거. I think 어머 얘기할래?
저는 그 한국은 음식을 할 때 계량 스푼이나 그 구랭 같은 걸 잘 사용하지 않고 조금만 더 넣어, 더 익혀, 뭐 이런 식으로 음식을 저는 했었거든요. 근데 쿡북을 만들면서 제일 어려웠던 게 세라는 how many minutes, how long time, how many 그 뭐지 계량 스푼 그 뭐지
Spoonful,
뭐
tablespoon.
테이블스푼.
Yeah. She's talking about measuring spoons and how yes.
예, 그리고 또 how many second까지 얘기를 해요. 저는 그게 제일 힘들었던 것 같아요.
So I'll translate. She was saying the hardest part for developing the recipes, because in the book my mom developed the recipes, I was the storyteller. It was getting the exact measurements because in Korea we don't really measure, especially her generation. And if we do measure, we use grams.
Right.
America is one of the only 3 countries that uses volume measurements, which is I have opinions about that. And that's why we do include grams in the book, because 1 carrot can mean anything. So we have like 400 grams of carrot because it's like that will ruin your seasoning if you don't have the grams in there. So we honor that in the recipe, but she was just saying Sarah wanted to know everything from how many minutes to the seconds, how many tablespoons, and that was something she had to learn. And I do credit and also blame America's Test Kitchen because we're so rigorous with it, and I think that's what makes the book so detailed and strong. But I do remember when I told her, please use measuring spoons, at first it felt like toys to her. Yeah. Like little kid toys, and then she would grab a tablespoon of it and it would be a heaping tablespoon. Yeah. And then Dan Zuccarello, who's our food editor, would get the knife and be like, this is how you level it. And my mom's like, are you serious? Like, you're gonna go out of the way to get a butter knife and level it. So there is a cultural difference between Korean cooking, especially of my mom's generation, and American cooking with the volume measurements. And I think for me with storytelling, it was very hard because there's a language barrier as a Korean American who, I don't want to say failed, but who hasn't learned Korean fluently yet. And so how do you translate a mother's story that's so full of wisdom and honor it when I don't understand her completely and when I'm not as wise? And so in order to translate that, one of my mom's favorite stories in the book, I made an Instagram reel about it. It was the one about my dad's cancer surgery and how she noticed the flowers blossoming at the time when her world was falling apart, and how she took for granted in the mundane beauty of things until that moment in life, that hardship. And she told me that story, and I was just like, I understand what you're saying, but I also don't, because I'm so young. I haven't dealt with this type of death. I still have yet to stop and smell the flowers. I never noticed when the trees blossom still. So in order to write that, you have to look at the person's movements in their face, the tears.
Yeah.
I don't mind crying. It's just that it's a very deep question. So when it comes to storytelling, it's very important that you're emotionally invested and you watch the tears fall down, you watch the mouth movements, you watch the eyes look at the corner of the room, and that's how I did the storytelling part.
한국 사람들은 우는 거 많이 좋아하는 것 같아요. 우리 Korean people have so much like, it's like 감동, the feeling, and it must be really hard to be touring with your mom right next to you, right? Like someone you love so much. Okay, I wanted to ask. I mean, there's so many pictures of both of you guys in here, and everyone's always interested in the process of writing a book. It's such a beautiful book. I wanted to ask you guys, what it felt like to have your life, your day-to-day life, stylized, for a cookbook, and to have, I'm sure your hair always looks amazing, like these photos. I'm sure yours. But 그 사진 찍을 때 좀 그 느낌이 어땠어요?
무슨
Kind of. Oh my God, my crane.
저희는 ATK 가서 모든 그 조리하는 과정이라든가 사진을 찍었거든요. 되게 만족했어요.
Yeah.
네.
Okay.
Do you want to translate that?
Oh, I don't know what 만족해 means.
Me too.
What?
Korean American.
Yeah, look at it.
Thank you.
Nice, good, yeah.
So America's Test Kitchen, the thing that was amazing about them is that the team came out multiple times to our home.
Oh.
Our photographer came out multiple times, same with our art director, and they just observed us. Our art director, Katie Behringer, she had her phone on notification so that every time I posted on my friend's story or in my close friend's story, which I documented the whole thing to my private friends online, she had it on notification to notice everything. And then she sent out our photographer, Kritsada, to go capture that.
Oh, wow.
So I think they did it with so much honor and respect. And there's a lot of read between the lines photographs in this book.
Right.
Like there's a picture, our favorite picture in the book is my mom's chair that she sits on at 5 a.m. every day. It's in the intro. And Kritsada just shot it so beautifully, but that was directed by our art director who said, I really want you to capture that aura. Yeah. And so I think we're really happy with the photography. It's that one right there, yeah.
Well, I mean, this intro really made me think about how you really captured your family dynamic so clearly, like your mom's role, why she cooks like that, your dad's role, like how they work together, this yin and yang, and your role in it, and how you're kind of finding that out. I think my question is, I want to know. This is the real thing about writing a book with your family. Everyone should just do it, whether you have a book deal or not. It's less expensive with a book deal. But I wanted to ask, what's the biggest thing you learned about your mom that you didn't know? And then 책 쓰면서 딸 대해서 oh my God, my crane.
She'll understand because I speak the same. Yeah.
Okay. 책 쓸 때 딸 대해서 새로운 걸 뭐 배웠어요?
배운 것보다도 사실은 수진이는 한국말을 잘 못하고 저는 영어를 못하는 그런 생활 속에서 그러니까 서로 깊은 얘기는 못 나눠요. 마음속에 있는 얘기를. 근데 이 책을 쓰면서 자연스럽게 음식을 저는 엄마한테서 배운 거를 수진이한테 얘기해 주는 과정에서 어떤 제 인생에 지나왔던 과거의 이야기가 나오고 또 할머니, 할아버지에 대한 제 그 그리움이라든가 그런 거를 자연스럽게 얘기를 하게 되더라고요. 그러면서 그런 과정 속에서 수진이도 엄마에 대해서 좀 더 많은 부분을 이해를 했던 것 같고 저도 수진이에 대해서 새로운 면을 보게 된 것 같았어요. 그러니까 서로 이해하는 그런 과정의 시간이었던 것 같아요. 예.
My mom said, obviously there's a language barrier between us where Sarah's fully fluent in English and I'm fluent in Korean and we're not in the other language. But the thing I learned most about her was, or the thing I learned most about myself was just being able to go back in time and retell her the stories growing up as a Korean in Korea. And I learned a lot of details about her that I didn't know, and she learned a part of me that she wasn't aware of. So it was a time for us to really understand each other where we had to put in the intention and heart into it. And so we really learned a lot about each other.
싸웠어요?
Yeah.
싸우기도 하죠.
Oh, yes, we fought a lot. It was a labor of love. But yeah, we fought a lot.
That means you love each other.
Yeah.
That's important. It makes me think of the kalbitang, right?
Yeah.
There's a
yeah,
recipe.
that recipe. We fought a lot about that recipe because it was like, it's a high heat, it's a medium high heat. Was that a tablespoon? That was a heaping tablespoon. Yeah.
The things you're fighting about when writing a cookbook seem silly, but they happen.
Yeah, exactly.
I have questions, but really I'm like looking in your faces, and all I want to ask is like, is there like, I kind of want to know, has it been overwhelming, like going around and sharing your such deep personal stories? How do you share something so private, and how is your mom able to be okay with the private stuff being written for such a public medium? And have you thought about that at all?
Yeah.
Like,
Especially with social media, I
right,
think there is a beauty in privacy, and you have to be very strategic with what you post,
yeah,
but also genuine.
right,
So you have to strike a balance of it. And social media and this cookbook taught me two things. With social media, I have a lot of opinions about it. For
yeah,
those who don't know, I work professionally as a social media, and I obviously make content as well. I always ask my family for permission whatever I upload.
yeah,
And if I upload something that I thought was okay and they're not okay with, I'll just delete it.
yeah,
But you always have to think about that. And social media is a whole different field. And when writing the book, I really wanted this book to relate to the common people. As you guys know, I come from a blue collar family. And so when I wrote about my dad and my dad's job as a house painter, I really had to actually convince my dad if I could write about that.
mm,
Because in Korean culture, not being in a prestigious job or working in an office job is looked down upon. But ultimately, my parents, when we had these discussions, they understood that there is a beauty in this ordinary, and I wanted to celebrate that, and they were okay with it.
yeah, nice. 우리 엄마는 항상 준호한테 내용 얘기하지 말라고 했어. 쓸 거니까 사람들 읽을 때.
아, 네.
My mom would always joke that like she shouldn't tell me anything, or you shouldn't tell me anything because it'll end up in the newspaper. But you're holding back a lot. You're only showing the tip of the iceberg. I really love that specific reel that you posted about your dad. Kind of hearing like someone say something about his job.
Yeah.
That was really, really
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's interesting because TikTok filtered out these comments, which was nice of TikTok, but I got a handful of comments saying this story is fake. I'm just like,
Oh,
I'm like, what part of the story is fake? I have no idea because it's
yeah,
all the truth. And it goes to show that some people are so unaware that when you're in the working class, people say those things like that.
yeah,
And it's just like, how privileged are you to think that it's fake?
yeah,
So that's why I share those type of videos, because I want people to understand this stuff happens, and this is the beauty in the ordinary, the richness in the ordinary, and
yeah,
there's so much that we should celebrate about it, so people are welcomed into the room.
yeah. I did want to talk more about just one more question about social media, which is kind of I'm fascinated by the mechanics of it, and I want to know how you learned what worked and how you got to this format that is really iconic to Honest Kitchen, and I think how do you we're striking that balance between genuine and real, but then also like people are really media illiterate and people don't know how to read at all. So like I think how did you create a form that like can reach and resonate with so many people? How did you land on that, like, I don't know, technically?
Yeah. I think when it comes to social media, it's very intuitive. Like whenever you look into anyone that's on social media, it's very intuitive and very natural to them.
Yeah.
So I always try to remain genuine. And all my reels and TikTok videos, I don't do a script. I'm
Oh,
just
cool.
speaking from the heart.
Nice.
I think that actually makes the biggest difference.
Yeah.
But I think if you answer the question with technicality, there's a very subconscious formula to how these videos are created,
Sure.
where I think of a topic idea that I think will resonate with people, and then I format the video where each clip is 1 second or less, and there's an action shot in the beginning and whatnot. And then when you combine that with a compelling storytelling thing, it tends to blow up. But my goal is really never to make such viral videos because of whatever reason it may be. I just really want to share a story that I think people need to hear or will resonate with.
Yeah, for sure. Like your account is those stories people are going to them because they resonate so much because they're telling like a human truth, I think. And but it's like we talk about at work, the delivery is the most important, but the message, as pure as the message is, like it won't get delivered if the delivery is not like perfect.
Exactly,
what you do
yeah.
so well. The one thing you do, I like when you're like so, and that's when you know it's gonna be like.
Oh, you notice that? Sometimes I clip it out because so many of my videos start with the word "so." When I was in elementary school.
Yeah. It's like a beautiful story. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my notes. Actually, I had a question for your mom. I love that you start your book with a picture of 깻잎 and your 깻잎.
Perilla leaves, yeah.
Yeah, perilla leaves. Your 깻잎 plant is huge. I mean, the picture of her, I totally lost it, but there's a picture of Nam Soon in front of her bush, and I don't know if you guys can tell from here, but like she goes up to here. So like, well, this is a blown up shot. Anyway, my question is, 그 깻잎은 언제 심었어요? 그렇게 크게 되게
봄에 보통 4월 달.
4월 달.
그러니까 에이프릴에 심는데 그 4월 달에 왜 심냐면 한국에서 4월 에이프릴 5가 나무 심는 날이에요. 예. 그래서 그거를 기준으로 해서 항상 에이프릴 되면 심었었어요.
Okay.
예.
So she's just saying. I was asking like when did she plant her perilla plant to get so big? She said she plants it every April.
Yeah, she planted it April 5th because that's the planting day in Korea. Yeah. But that perilla seed plant, she planted a couple years ago, and it's April right now. Every April, it creates new perilla leaves by itself.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It's technically a weed, right? So like
wildfire. Exactly.
It's like a good thing to have in your garden.
It is.
Okay, I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
What made you choose bulgogi for the cover?
Oh, that's a good question. That was done with our art director and the team, our editorial team, Valerie and everyone, where we wanted to show an iconic dish that everyone is pretty familiar with. That bulgogi is Seoul style bulgogi, which has the broth in it. Something I ate in Korea. I much prefer it to the ones that we're commonly familiar with. And then we also put in different banchan.
Yeah.
Nice. But that cover image, we had many discussions if we want to do just a plated food, and then ATK discussed it with other people, and they were like, no, we want you guys to be on the cover, and I'm so glad we did that.
Yeah. 이 사진 찍고 이거 먹었어요? That's like the question people always want to know.
아니, 우리 안 먹었어요.
No, we didn't eat it.
바빠서.
We were just so busy.
You're busy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do want to mention, if you notice the details of the book, it's so detailed that we got even a custom apron that Korean moms wear. Korean moms don't really tend to wear the one that goes around the neck, the U-shaped ones. They tend to wear, generally speaking, H aprons. So ATK, America's Test Kitchen, got a custom-made apron for it. And then even in the pictures where you're seeing her make kimchi for our kimchi recipes, they had us bring in our house slippers. They had us bring us our table mat. They had a wood floor set up for us so it mimicked the one at home.
Oh, wow.
And she's wearing that H apron. So there's a lot of details in the front cover, and again, kind of like read between the lines, clues within the photos.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think I'm sort of like jumping around here, but I love that such specific dishes in the book have so much meaning, and the weight you put into them happens in the storytelling before it. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about your relationship to 고등어 조림? So I feel like you talked about guilt and gratitude with that 고등어 조림 and how you started to appreciate it more as you got older. But it's not really a question. I think I wanted to know your relationship to it. Like what exactly, you didn't write it in there, but like what exactly was it about it that made you ask your mom, is this for adults and not children? Like, this is an interesting.
It's a funny answer, and I chose my words carefully in the book.
Okay.
But 고등어 조림, so the guilt and gratitude essay was about how we were sent to Korea from TikTok to film a commercial, which just felt so surreal. And it was about the guilt one may feel when they go on vacation and their parents are working back at home. I think it's a very common feeling that a lot of people have, but maybe not share online and social media. And that essay was inspired by Koreans who would ask me, so are you going to Korea next summer? And I'm just like, what? No, maybe in 10 years I can go when I have money. Yeah. And so that it's about, I wanted people to know there's this other side where we don't take anything for granted, and there's this guilt when we go on vacation.
Yeah.
And that essay talks about how, we were getting these gourmet meals made by chefs and this 5-star hotel in Busan and these pristine white sheets, and just how I told my mom how guilty I feel being here and my dad's working.
Yeah.
And then we ate kodingo chorim, and I told my mom, I really want to live a life like this. And
she said you will.
yes. And she's picking out the bones in the kodingo chorim, which is so beautiful. And that recipe, though, on the funny side, is that that's a recipe I always associate older generations eating.
Yeah.
And it's a recipe that I'm really appreciating as I get older, because I've only seen older Koreans eat it.
Yeah.
But as I'm approaching my 30s, I'm really appreciating it. And I think it's a really homey recipe that brings you warmth and comfort.
Yeah. Writing a Korean book is really interesting because you have to confront dishes that you hated growing up as a child. Were there any?
One of them.
That's one of them.
Yes.
Any others that you refound, or your mom even didn't? I think she said you guys both don't like 시금치 나물. 시금치 나물 안 좋아하잖아요, 원래.
Oh yeah, we're not a big fan of the just the classic spinach, seasoned spinach panchan, and same with the soybean sprouts panchan.
Right.
That's why we add the imitation crab to it.
Cool.
And when we were filming Next Gen for America's Test Kitchen, and there was Korean crew that tasted it, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, the imitation crab and the soybean sprout! We'd never seen it. It's so delicious." Cool. And it's also why we add gochujang in our spinach panchan.
Brilliant.
Yeah, imitation crab. That's my mom's idea.
Well, okay, so this is actually why I wanted to talk about authenticity, because it's specifically, you kind of phrase it as, I have my notes here. You phrased it as, in this book, I celebrate these traditional and generational recipes from my Korean Umma by sharing them with you in their most authentic form. And I think a lot of Koreans, when they see themselves on the page for the first time, and another Korean person has written it, and it doesn't match their mom's version, they say, I'm Korean and that's not authentic Korean. And I think if people approached this cookbook like that, they'd be like, oh, 콩나물 무침 doesn't usually have crab in it, which is such bull crap, because it's authentic to you guys.
Exactly. It's so funny that you mentioned that, because obviously we're getting a lot of press and reviews, and our lowest reviews for this book is actually that exact thing you just said, where it's that's not how Koreans make it.
That's crazy.
But then it's, when we see it, it's but that's how my mom makes it, and that's what's authentic to me.
Yeah.
And maybe we put this and that in there, and if it's not your cup of tea, you could just omit it.
Yeah. Oh, wait, it's a question I want to ask your mom then. 한국 사람들이 이렇게 okay, I'm not gonna try it.
Because I speak like that, so
no,
she'll
it's
understand.
Embarrassing. It's very embarrassing. Well, I guess I wanted to ask, when I was working on my book, my mom I was really anxious about that, Koreans hating me, but she was like, who cares? What was your mom's reaction to the Koreans who were who gatekeep stuff like that with Korean, in regard to Korean food, especially because she's such a proficient Korean cook? Does she have any thoughts about that?
Do you want to say in Korean?
이런 음식 보고 한국 사람들은 콩나물 무침은 what's it called again?
Imitation crab.
Imitation crab. 그 원래 안 들어가는데요. 그런 내용 들으시면 어떻게 생각해요?
한국 사람 이거 밤은 maybe 그래. 한국 사람들은 imitation crab 안 나는데 이거 진짜 한국 음식 아니야. 오늘 저기 뭐 생각해?
글쎄, 한국 음식이라고 딱 정해진 게 뭐 있나 싶은 생각은 드는데요. 세월이 옛날에 조선시대의 한국 음식이랑 지금 한국 음식이랑은 조금 나는 다르다고 생각하거든요. 거기에 조금 더 이렇게 좀 체인지 되는 게 나는 있어야 된다고 생각을 해요. 예, 기본적인 장맛은 있어야 된다고 생각을 하지만 어떤 재료를 넣는 거는 그 사람의 어떤 아이디어나 그런 거 아닐까요?
She said, when it comes to making recipes, I like to use modern adaptations to it and adjust, and that's the art of cooking. And when it comes to Korean cooking, I may not follow what was maybe done in the Joseon dynasty, and that's considered traditional, right? But in this modern day and age, the art of cooking is putting your own twist to it, and that's how we stay up to date and make cooking so special. So that's how my mom keeps it authentic to herself.
I love that.
사실은 그거를 만들게 된 계기가 뭐냐면은 아이들은 콩을 잘 안 먹더라고요. 그런데 콩나물에는 그런 영양소가 다 들어있잖아요. 그러면 우리 큰아이가 애들이 잘 콩나물을 안 먹었었어요. 그럼 거기다가 뭘 넣으면은 애들이 맛있게 잘 먹을 수 있을까 생각하다가 그 이미테이션 크랩을 넣기 시작했는데 우리 큰 아들이 제일 좋아하는 반찬 중에 하나가 콩나물 무침이에요.
와.
네.
So for that recipe, the soybean sprouts, the question was some Koreans might critique that soybean sprouts don't traditionally have imitation crab. That's not traditional. And my mom said, well, that recipe was developed because my kids aren't very particularly fond of just soybean sprouts seasoned. And so I thought, what can I make this good so my kids love it, but still keep it Korean? And so I added imitation crab, and now it's my son's favorite banchan.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it's the first one in the panchan section, which says a
Yes.
lot. And there's gochujang and the shigumchi namu, which is like so brilliant. I think it's a great idea. I also added like all this cream and sesame seeds to mine because I don't really particularly like shigumchi namu either.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, it's funny. There are many ways to be Korean, but the one way is this. Okay. I wanted to know just the reporting process of, you know, like you're playing journalist kind of, and you're interviewing your mom a lot, and there are conversations between the two sprinkled throughout, like a lot of them. Did you record them, or like what was? I guess I want to know like technically how you did it, because everyone does this sort of thing differently. I'm just wondering how did you write it down?
So within the book, there's kitchen conversations where it says Sarah, Umma, Sarah, Umma. It's like us literally having conversation. That was inspired by my Instagram stories.
Oh, yeah.
Our editor, Valerie, I think it was her idea to put that into the book, where the stories on my Instagram, it just translates our literal conversations. And so when those conversations happened, when we were developing these recipes, my mom would taste it, and it would often bring her back. It would transport her in time back to when she had it as a child. And when she was giving, like, it came very authentically, and it wasn't on the spot where I was like, Oma, tell me a story. It was just be like, oh, I just had this, and it brought me back to kimjang days, the collective efforts of making kimchi. That's kimjang. And then I just quickly take out my notebook. I'm like, wait, say that again. And I write it down, and then I would just translate that into the book. So all those conversations and those stories came very organically through eating these foods and being transported back in time, and just quickly documenting all of that.
Yeah, nice. Really enjoying this time together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For being in New York. Okay. In this book, Nam Soon talks about 식당 맛, maybe, and it's in a section where you're talking about, I guess you're like introducing the tashida and like, and you're talking about like MSG and stuff and restaurant food versus home cooking. I wanted to ask both of you, what is the difference to you between restaurant cooking and home cooking? 식당 음식하고 집밥, oh my god, 비교? What's the difference to you?
집밥이라고 생각하면
집밥 is home cooking, yes.
예, 집밥이라고 생각하면 건강한 음식, 짜지 않고 달지 않고 뭐 야채 위주로 한 건강한 식단. 그다음에 레스토랑 음식은 좀 맛있는 그런 좀 이미지가 있잖아요. 근데 제가 맨 처음에는 저희 애 아빠가 한 30년 전에 위암 수술을 했었어요. 수술하고 나서 당연히 건강한 식단을 생각하게 되죠. 짜지 않고 달지 않고 건강하게 먹자 해서 그렇게 위주로 해서 식단을 짜다 보니까 못 먹어요. 자꾸 살이 빠지고, 그러니까 특히 또 위암 수술이니까 살이 빠지고 건강이 회복되지가 않더라고요. 그래서 이 건강한 식단이 누구를 위한 건강한 식단이냐. 일단은 애 아빠를 좀 먹게 해줘야 되겠다. 맛있게 먹게 해줘야 되겠다. 그러면서부터 제 생각이 그때부터 바뀌었어요. 그냥 저는 음식을 만들 때 맛있게 먹자요. 그래서 그렇게 만들게 된 그런 차이인 것 같아요.
Yeah.
나한테 맞게, 상황에 맞게
Yeah.
그런 식으로. 네.
That's beautiful.
Do you want to translate, or do you want
I think
me
you
to?
should.
She said when it comes to home cooking, it's often associated with not being too sweet, not being too salty, and making it as healthy as possible. When it comes to restaurant cooking, it's about making it as tasty as possible. My mom used to own a restaurant, but back when my husband had stomach cancer and got surgery for it, it was in the 1990s, and we're still young. It became my goal to feed him very healthy foods. I didn't want him to be I just wanted him to be healthy. And I realized when we tried to create all these healthy foods that wasn't sweet, wasn't salty, and these are my words, quite bland, we didn't enjoy the foods, and his health didn't really do much better, and you really didn't enjoy life where food often fulfills you in many ways. And that was when it clicked. My philosophy on food is that food should be made to be enjoyed, and you have to adjust it to your liking so it fits your lifestyle. So when I cook, I make it so that the food is good and that it's enjoyed, and that we adjust it to what we like, but also maintain whatever we need, whether it's healthy or whatnot. So in my mom's recipes, she welcomes every ingredient. We proudly talk about MSG and why we advocate for that. I actually write in there that I'm not. It breaks my heart when Asian brands proudly put no MSG on their product, because MSG was made in Japan. It's completely natural. It's completely safe, but there's a horrible stigma that Americans put on it, the Chinese restaurant syndrome.
Yeah.
So it just breaks my heart when I see Asian brands put that.
Yeah.
We embrace those ingredients, MSG, dashida, which is beef stock powder, and MSG mixed together. There's sugar throughout our recipes, and those recipes, I think it's rooted in her love for restaurant quality foods, but also her philosophy that food should be enjoyed, but adjust it to your liking.
Oh, I love that. I really think the difference between home cooking and restaurant cooking is just like the venue, and you go into the chef's kitchen and you learn that he just cooks it the same way that you would at home. Anyway, I loved her answer because I was like, that was really beautiful. I mean, okay, I wanted to ask real quick. We're gonna do audience questions next. So if you have some, keep them in mind. I wanted to ask, is there anything that you guys? I mean, this book is a compendium of your home cooking. Is there anything you don't cook at home and you specifically go out to eat? Because you guys even have fried chicken in here. You have like 갈비찜. 나가 먹을 때 사 먹는 음식만 있나요? 집에 안 만드는 음식?
짜장면, right? 짜장면.
Jjajangmyeon, which you're writing about. Yeah, jjajangmyeon is probably one of them. But you're asking about Korean food, right?
No, that was perfect. I was wondering if that was the reason jjajangmyeon's not in the book. That's a good answer.
Yeah,
jjajangmyeon 좋아하셔?
네, 짜장면 좋아하고 그다음에 얼랑국수.
Oh, and
pho,
yeah,
so
but that makes sense because that's not within our expertise.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, love that. I wanted to ask her fried chicken method. There's like a wave pattern crust, and specifically, it's like, I mean, this is what I read. Like she taps it on against the bowl.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit? And like, how did you like come up with that description? Like, how did you even like arrive at that nuance when you're writing a recipe?
She described it to me when she was teaching me the recipe. So the Korean fried chicken recipe, it's double battered in a dry and wet batter, and then she dips it in the flour or the wet batter first, and then once it's all dipped, she taps it against, holding a tong, she taps it against the bowl. And I was like, oh, you're getting rid of the excess batter. And my mom's like, no, I'm not doing that purposely. The first intention with this is to create this wave pattern. And it's a technique used by Korean chefs. She did a lot of research with these recipes. And in that recipe, she looked at her favorite Korean chefs that you have to really be within the niche to find those videos on YouTube. When you tap it against the batter, the chef said it creates this wave pattern. That's the top priority. It's not to get rid of the excess batter, but that does also happen. And that's what creates a very crispy, beautiful fried chicken. We don't double fry it like most Korean recipes call for, because there's this other side that Korean chefs use, which is that tapping method.
Nice. That's amazing. That's like a secret.
Yeah. That's what I love about her recipes is that we learned a lot about Korean chefs and Chinese chefs as well that we credit to, that you have to kind of understand the language and find those videos online, the deep side of Korean cooking, and we were able to bring that into the book.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just thinking about all the people who worked on this book. They just had like a master class in Korean cooking, right? At ATK.
Would you agree, Valerie?
It's amazing. Yeah. Whether you're editing it or shooting the picture. Okay, let's go to audience questions. How are we doing this? She has a mic.
You raise your hand. We'll bring the mic to you.
Yeah, so that our YouTube audience can also listen. So no cussing.
I can start with a question from online viewer. Actually, somebody asked when they are not quite familiar with Korean food or cooking Korean food, where do you want them to start in your book?
Good question.
Oh, yes. So we do have in the intro of our book 5 easy recipes to get started, along with other things like 5 occasional recipes, 5 popular recipes. And those 5 recipes are the al kamja chorim, very easy. You just boil the potatoes and then you cook it in the sauce. Tubu chorim, which is spicy braised tofu, also very easy. You just cook the tofu and then cook it in the sauce. Cucumber kimchi, you just mix it with the seasonings with chopped cucumber. And then there's angel hair bibimbap and kimchi grilled cheese if you need to transition into Korean food but want to use American ingredients as well.
Nice. I love this page, by the way. The kosu musengchae is such a cool recipe.
거수 무생채 너무 멋있다.
너무 멋있어요.
It's my it's my mom's favorite recipe in the book
really?
because it's
저도
a
좋아요.
North Korean recipe.
Yeah, that's cool. Any questions? We have the mom right here. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Sarah. Hey, Nam Soon. I'm really excited to start cooking through this cookbook. I noticed, so I love your videos on solongtang, like the broth is so gelatinous and everything.
solongtang.
But I noticed that it's not in the cookbook.
Right.
Was that deliberate? Is that
Oh,
the recipe?
a lot of people ask about that and why solongtang didn't make it, and it's because it would have taken too much real estate in the book, most importantly, but solongtang is a very complicated recipe. I get messages from many people saying, I tried this recipe, but it's not milky, it's not as white as your mom's broth. Why is that the case? You need very strong heat. And when we were developing this book, we were going to put it in there, and my mom's like, all right, let's develop it. And then she took me outside into our gas stove, our gas camping stove. And I'm like, Umma, I don't think a potong normal person has a gas stove sitting outside in their backyard. And she's like, well, that's how you make it if you want this milky broth. And I'm like, well, Umma, we can't ask people to do that in the book. And then she was like, well, I don't know what you want me to do because I'm not going to, like, she's like, do you want us to try it on our electric stove? But we realized that just would have been, we didn't have time for that. But my mom is very convinced that it's the heat. And I know she's right. You need very strong heat. And so we just couldn't translate that into a home cooking recipe. I do plan to share that recipe online on YouTube for free. So stay tuned. But yes, solongtang recipe, to get that very milky broth full of collagen, you need a very strong heat, and that's why she deliberately bought that camp stove gas burner. Great question.
Nice. That's why it doesn't work in an Instant Pot.
Yeah.
You need the boiling.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to say congratulations. I've been watching your Instagram and your videos for a long time, and
Thank you.
I've bought a lot of Korean cookbooks, and I think your recipes are like one of the best out there. Both of you guys, I'm a big fan of both of you. My question for you is, I feel like you're really paving this road for Korean cooking. How did you decide to get into this content creation? Like, what did you study in college, and how did it kind of lead to this path, especially for like the younger people out there? I'm just curious how you got involved with this.
So I talk about it in the book in the rotisserie chicken cabbage roll recipe. I studied public health at UC Irvine. I studied that because it was a stable career, but it also was the only major that had food involved. Because I always loved food growing up with my mom and my uncle, whose recipes are in this book for the dessert section. I've always grown up in the restaurant industry. So I've always been fascinated by food, but I picked a stable career because choosing a creative career, my parents really encouraged me to actually study film because I've always loved editing and storytelling.
Nice.
And I'm very fortunate that life led me back to this. But I feared going through that journey because if that didn't work out, I don't have a fallback plan. I can't fall back on my parents. I don't have that privilege. And so I picked a very stable career. Likewise with my brother, who is a resident at medical school. That's why he's in that career path as well, because we don't have a fallback plan. But once I graduated from UC Irvine, I got a job in public health. I knew right away this isn't the career for me. So I was very lost in my young 20s. And then I went into tech because everybody was talking about tech. And thankfully, with my public health background, I had an internship at a health tech space. So that's how I was able to get into it. And I quickly realized, oh my gosh, this isn't for me. I felt so lost and I felt like a failure that I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. But then looking back at it, when you're in your young 20s, that should be expected and celebrated. And so we had many long conversations explained in that recipe the cabbage rolls of what I should do. And my mom told me, because I was so lost, and she told me, Sarah, you're already ahead of the game. You're already thinking about what you want. You're questioning your goals, what your ambitions are. When I was your age, I never questioned it. I just did what everyone else did. I got a job that was stable enough, and I just went with that routine. But you're questioning it. You're already 10 steps ahead. Follow your gut. And so I've always followed my gut. I quit that tech job, and then I just built up my social media. That's always been my passion, and it was kind of intuitive to me, more so storytelling. And then I started a blog, and I started to write on there and share her recipes. And then from there, it's kind of history. I applied to America's Test Kitchen. They saw my potential, and I just kept growing from there. So I think my advice would just be follow your gut. I think if your gut is constantly telling you something, that's your future self telling you you're meant to go that way. Please believe in yourself. And I still have to remind myself to follow that advice. But I always think that you're onto something if you're questioning yourself. It's more concerning if you don't.
That's beautiful.
Speaking of college, I think that was the last time I actually saw you in person. So hi again.
Hi,
my question for you is, like as someone who also came from immigrant parents, this process seemed like it was very, vulnerable, and you had to be very open and have very difficult conversations with both your mom and your dad. Were you nervous about approaching that? And how did you go about that as someone who's like very uncomfortable having to do that with my own parents, but also recognizing as you get older, is very important?
That's a great question. I think with my mom, I didn't feel any discomfort. She's my best friend, and she's so wise that I'm always I feel so comfortable telling her almost anything. So for her, it was very comfortable, but it was actually my dad where I was very, uncomfortable is not the right word, just very, I don't know what the right word is. You guys could fill it in for me. Guarded, yes, very guarded. And just when I filmed that video of the one where I went to work with him and how I'm a proud daughter of an exterior painter, I had to clip out so many clips of me crying because it was so, there's just not enough of that content online. I didn't know what people were going to say about it. My parents, as great as they are, they've always been very hush-hush about it. When my dad came home, and he still does this, he'll hide his ladders so my friends don't see it. And there's also these, we've heard many comments from other Koreans saying the harshest things about the way we live. And so for that, it was I just had to muster up the courage to share it, because at the end of the day, I know myself and that story should be celebrated. And there's so many people who live like that, and we don't see it on social media, and people should see it and people should celebrate it. So I just mustered up the courage because I know what should be celebrated.
Related to that, there's a viewer question asking Umma, Mrs. Ahn, how did she become comfortable in front of the camera and sharing her stories as a first-gen Korean? 이제 이민 오신 분으로서 이렇게 그 카메라를 보면서 얘기하고 그러는 게 굉장히 불편하셨을 것 같은데 어떻게 점점 더 편하게 느껴지게 되시는지.
맨 처음에 이제 틱톡부터 시작했지, 그지?
인스타그램 먼저 했어.
인스타그램. 불편했어요. 안 했으면 좋겠더라고요.
She said it was a little uncomfortable and I wish she didn't do it.
그리고 집에서 가장 못생겼을 때 하더라고요.
And she did it when our kitchen was the most ugly.
네, 그래서 저도 좀 이쁘게 나오고 싶은데 그게 너무 불편하고 그래서 이제 자연스럽게 찍게 됐는데 결국에는 거기에 하게 되더라고요.
Yeah. And so eventually she just started filming me and it just became a routine and we got used to it. But I think that's the beauty in our perfect kitchen is that it's very realistic, it's very honest. And when we film today, the camera she doesn't even notice it anymore. And so it's become second nature to us. But at first she was uncomfortable because, again, it goes with the Korean culture of wanting to show only the best. And she was a bit self-conscious of our imperfect but perfect kitchen.
근데
things
사실
like
제가
that.
뭐 하는 건 그냥 집에서 하는 자연스러운 모습을 찍으니까 제가 특별히 뭘 할 거는 없더라고요.
And she only films me when I'm in my element, when I'm just cooking, nothing scripted. And so there's nothing in particular that I have to be camera ready for.
Thank you. So many of us benefit from it, you know, learning a lot from her expertise.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
I want to say thank you. 감사합니다 to your Umma. My daughter, one of her conditions is short bowel syndrome, and she was told that she would only have parental nutrition. She's at a place now where she can eat. She's off of iron medication because she has galbi once a week, and we're at a point where she can wean off of other supports. And I just want to say thank you for creating this. I'm so excited to love my children like your Umma. Oh, and my last question, I'm sorry. I missed something about the kimchi. I tell my daughter, because we go out of state for medical care, that we find her otsukaresama desu practitioners. And I learned something in Korean. I think it started with an S. I asked my new friend, the somo kimchi. I forgot what you called it. And you said you either have the love or you don't. And so I learned a new word to describe the care team that got my daughter to this point. What was the kind of kimchi?
sonmat.
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 Sonmat?
Yes,
Hand
that's the
taste.
hand taste.
Hand taste.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nafas in Arabic. Anyway,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.
너무 고마운데 엄마 음식에 딸과 컨디션이 있어 약간 아픈 거. 그래서 음식에 굉장히 고마운 것도 굉장히 엄마 봤을 때 손맛 배우지 보고 또 저도 음식에 저한테 부탁 이렇게 promise 했어 she could love 만든 거.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for making this, by the way. It's a beautiful book, and
Thank you.
I appreciate all the bravery in getting deep into these recipes and history. I was wondering how you manage having any privacy with all of this going on, and how you balance that side of your life that you're not sharing. I imagine that's challenging.
It is. That's a great question. And I'm actually working with a PhD researcher studying this right now, because I think social media is, I have a lot of thoughts about it. And like I mentioned earlier, I started Honest Kitchen as a blog. I never really meant to be on social media. That's why I don't really show myself much. I'm also pretty introverted. That doesn't mean I'm shy. That's the common misconception with introverts, is that we're shy. But I'm not shy, as you guys can see. But I am very introverted. I've realized from early on there's a beauty in privacy. You have to be very strategic about what you upload. So what I upload on Honest Kitchen, it's only a slice of a pie. And I don't upload the drama that's going on. I don't upload the family tea. I don't upload the hardships that we go through that needs to be honored in private. I don't upload my relationships, my friendships on there, maybe sometimes, rarely, if I feel a little okay with it. So I really think consciously what I upload and don't upload, but keep it genuine. But I think people need to understand that social media, it's only a slice of the pie. It's both good and bad, where I encourage you guys to never compare yourself to anyone on social media. And I also encourage you guys to see the beauty in privacy. Privacy is a luxury. Yeah, I have so many opinions about it. I could go on it forever and ever. And I just think there's a beauty in privacy, and I really respect that. Yeah.
Hi, Sarah and 어머님 안녕하세요.
Hi, 안녕하세요.
Speaking of slices of the pie, I love and appreciate and respect so much how you decided to share about part of the hardships, your parents working so hard, being up before the sun rises every single day. I want to know from 어머님, where does she draw her strength? Where does she draw the energy to get up at 4:30 a.m. and make 도시락 and banchan for 아버님 every day? It makes me so emotional, and my girlfriends and I, similar experience. Our parents, bust their butts every single day, work so hard. Where does 어머님 draw her strength from?
엄마 힘도 에너지 어디에 가죠? 이렇게 everyday 열심히 하게 일찍 일어나고 선도 안 나올 때 일찍 일어나고 음식 도시락 싼 거 저 힘이 어디에 가져온 거야?
테레비 좋아하죠.
예, 그게 그 가족한테 오는 거라고 저는 생각을 해요. 만약에 저 혼자 있었으면 그런 에너지가 어디서 나올까 싶은데요. 예, 가족인 것 같아요.
She said, I get this energy from my family. If I didn't have family, I wonder where I would get this energy from. So it's the family that motivates me to get up every day. She actually told me, because I live at home and I sometimes want to move out because I'm human. I get irritated sometimes and I'm just like, I wish the home can be quiet sometimes, because I'm human. And she said this really powerful thing. I don't remember the exact quote, but she said something like, live alone if you want to live in comfort. Live with others if you want to be happy. And I was like, that's just genius. Put it in the book.
And we have time for one last question. So Eric, would you
Yeah.
like to?
Okay. I kind of, and we're gonna sign books after, and you get to meet them. 요리. Okay. I think what I wanted to ask was, since this is a mother-daughter story, and we've been talking about sonmat and how it requires a lot of talent, I think we need to not underestimate her humility, like Umma's humility. She's a chef. She's like really good at cooking, and not everyone's good at cooking. Just because you're a Korean mom doesn't mean you can cook. No offense. So I wanted to ask her, 생활에서 요리하면서 어떤 음식이 제일 어려웠어요? 도사가 되게 어떤 음식이 어떤
김치요.
요리가 김치.
김치.
Oh yeah.
Can
예.
you translate the question?
Yeah, sorry. So I asked which dish was the hardest to become an expert at? Kimchi.
엄마가
몇 년?
얘기했었지 왜. 엄마 맨 처음에 김치 만들 때 실수가 많았었어요. 저 경험이 없었으니까. 어떤 날은 김치를 담으면 김치가 물렁물렁해져요. 예, 또 어떤 날 하여튼 그 쌀티라든가 그런 게 밸런스가 안 맞아가지고 어려웠던 게 제일 시간이 오래 걸렸던 게 김치예요. 그래서 나중에 알게 된 게 이제 소금을 잘 써야 되고 또 여러 가지가 그 요소가 있더라고요. 그래서 제일 어려웠던 게 저는 김치였어요. 한 20년 걸린 것 같아요.
20년 뭐지?
20 years.
Do you want to translate?
Oh,
I can try. Yeah, she said.
오래 걸렸다고.
So I'll start with
하시네요.
the ending sentence where it took her 20 years to finally develop a kimchi recipe that she can always rely on. Kimchi is very volatile. Sometimes when you have to use the right type of salt, sometimes depending on the temperature, the kimchi will become too soggy. Sometimes it won't become soggy. And there's a lot of factors that play into it, especially with things that you can't control. And so for me, kimchi recipe, it just took me many years to develop it. And now she's at a point where kimchi is just a quick thing.
Yeah.
And when developing these recipes, we really relied on my grandma's techniques and the ways that our ancestors made it to make a solid recipe that now she uses measuring spoons to make.
Takes 20 years to become a kimchi expert. Great. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. Everybody stay exactly where you are because they would like to take a photo with all of you. So stay right there. We're going to unclip them and then we'll take a photo and then we're going to usher them into the gallery in the back. And then you guys will line up with the books. If you haven't purchased yet, we still have plenty of copies available in the back. Also, Korean American by Eric Kim is also available, and he's more than willing to sign his copies as well. So you guys will line up nicely and quietly, please. And please mind the artworks on the wall.
사진 찍을 거야.
And
이거 먼저
we'll
다
go from there.
그래서 오디오까지도.